Hello and welcome everybody to our July session of Eye on ESI. I am Maribel Rivera, Vice President of Strategy and Client Engagement at ACEDS. I forgot who I was. And I'm joined today by Jared Coseglia, CEO and founder of True Staffing, one of our affiliate partners, one of our favorite and long-term partners as well. We've been doing a lot together for a long time. Jared, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, Maribel. I'm so glad to be here with everybody. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're also joined by the infamous, or soon to be infamous, Joey Bruno. He's napping today. We may have a moment somewhere in the middle where he has to be escorted out of the webinar, but for now, everyone can say hi to Joey.
Aw, no problem. We love that. All right, we got a lot to kick into. Before you get started, this is an interactive session. Jared and I have a lot to share. Jared has a lot to share. I'm just going to listen and ask questions. But in between that, we want your comments. We want your feedback. We want to hear what you're seeing. This helps Jared, myself, and Mike as we start having our conversations, what we're looking at in the market and how we can help the community overall and continuously improve what we're seeing as far as job trends and career trajectory. So, Jared, let's jump in.
Let's jump in. If you don't already have a copy of our jobs report for 2024, the data is still very relevant, though changing on a monthly basis. And that's really what we're here to talk about, is how it's changed since last month. But this is a great resource, particularly for hiring managers, as you're looking for advocacy and points of data in the job market to help you get the right budget or budget at all, or creatively how to help solve some of your staffing problems with different solutions. So if you haven't downloaded it, get it today. That's the jobs report. And a lot of the stuff we've talked about in there is what we're going to break down for you today.
Great. And Jared, let me just ask that someone on the team from True just throw the link in just in case someone doesn't get the QR code. If you can throw it in the chat.
Beautiful. We decided to add this new segment to this webinar, and we can kind of put all 5 of them up really quick, just to kind of show you the diversity of some of the hot jobs that are out there right now and things that we're actively working on. And it's pretty diverse. There's contract opportunity, there's direct hire opportunity, there's leadership opportunity, there's traditional mid-market project management opportunity. And then there at the bottom, you're starting to see there's the emergence of new jobs that are kind of what we would consider jobs in innovation within firms, where they're dealing with advising on technology solutions above and beyond e-discovery, though sometimes including it, or very specifically using e-discovery technology for purposes other than e-discovery. And that's now starting to trend a little bit. So we wanted to highlight some of those. And if any of these speak to you, you should definitely reach out to us here at True.
Yes. And just a quick question there, because I see one is UK based, and I've been seeing a lot of new roles in the UK around e-discovery specifically. So is that something you're starting to see as well?
Well, I think we talked about this about a year ago, actually,
Yeah.
where the UK kind of goes through these frequencies that have high peaks and low valleys, meaning when 4 or 5 people change jobs, it creates a musical chair effect that then ripples for about a 3 to 6 month window, and then things tend to go quiet for another 12 months. We're in that window right now. Yeah, there's been movement. That movement has created opportunity. Those opportunities are challenging to fill because the UK is not immune to some of the exact same things that are happening here in the United States, which are employers have high expectations, but aren't willing to pay whatever it takes to get the talent they need. They have pressure from the top down to keep budgets in line. And so it's a constant negotiation. And we're also seeing in the UK the return to being in office versus working remotely from home. And a lot of people have moved out of downtown London and are now, in the countryside, quite frankly, and don't want to come back 3 days a week and aren't going to. So there's that struggle now weaving itself into the narrative as well.
Awesome.
So here's what's happening in June, now that we're in July. We decided to kind of put some statistics up, Maribel, that were indicative of how have the last 2 quarters, since it's the end of the second quarter, the end of June, how have the last 2 quarters compared similarly or differently to the first 2 quarters of 2023. And this is one of those stats. We've actually filled 30% more ESI jobs in the first half of this year than we did in the first half of last year. And that shows you that people are hiring more, they're hiring faster, and there's more jobs available in e-discovery than there were a year ago today over the last 6 months by about 30%.
Right.
And that's good. This is good news, everybody. Okay, great.
Yeah.
In June of 2024, had the second highest amount of offers declined. And why is this important? Well, that's because job seekers, particularly the most sought after ones, are getting not one, not two, sometimes three, four offers to choose from at the point at which they leave their current employer. That means someone's going to be very happy and two to three employers are going to be really disappointed. So we're seeing now things, as we've said, and this was a trend we identified 3 or 4 months ago. It is a slow move back to a candidate's job market because it has been so stringently employee or employer focused for the last 18 months. And so that's why we saw the second highest amount of declines. Now, to be fair, the first highest amount was the month before of May. So it got a little better, but not much. There's still a lot of people fighting over the same people in the market.
Is it also because we're heading into that summertime lull? A little bit of that summertime lull?
No.
No.
The only thing the summertime lull really impacts in e-discovery is the speed of hire. That's when we see things slow down because it takes longer to get people on an interview. People are on vacation. I mean, we have one candidate where the hiring manager wanted to see them, but they were on vacation. And then the candidate was on vacation. It took almost 3 weeks from the time we sent the resume to the time we got the first round interview done because of all the vacationing and availability. And then they're back from vacation, they need a little time. I can't interview right away. Let me get settled back in. All of these things impact how many jobs get filled and when the next ones get filled, because the longer it takes to fill jobs, the longer it takes for new jobs to open up, right? We need our own musical chairs here in the United States too. So we're starting to see people get more competitive. The other big trend we're seeing, Maribel, is a lot of corporate hiring is starting to tick up in e-discovery
Yes.
meaningfully. But I will admit to everybody, most of this is contract work. It may be perpetual. It may have no end in sight. The corporate work that is contract is also generally remote. Sometimes they like you to come in, but they may not make you. So if you're looking to get in-house to a corporate e-discovery position, sometimes considering going contract or contract to hire is the best, if not only way to get in. And we're starting to see that trend really emerge over the months of May and now reinforced pretty significantly in June. And I would also say that we are seeing people leave full-time direct hire positions for these contract opportunities in order to have that corporate experience.
And that's the driver, is to have that corporate experience.
Without getting into what they might be running away from, because
Yeah.
everyone has their own individual answer to what they're
Story,
running
yeah.
away from. I think they're running towards the uniqueness of that environmental shift from a workplace perspective. I think
Yes.
the uniqueness of the wearing many hats in a smaller ecosystem, I think that becomes very appealing to e-discovery job seekers who've sort of been compartmentalized or isolated in one function of the EDRM and want to get back to that, like, how do I touch everything?
Yes.
That's a good way to do it. You're
Yeah.
more likely to do that in corp in an ecosystem that isn't incredibly mature, right? Less so in banks, right? The bank systems are very mature. You may get put just in forensics and all you do is collections, or just in a certain segments of the business is e-discovery.
But a retailer may not
Right.
have, a large retailer may not have that much of a
Correct.
system.
That's right.
And I think also moving into that corporate, you can take those e-discovery skills, right, which we're seeing now, and start to look at them in other areas in the business.
100%. There are a lot of people using relativity and logical and all the rest of them to do things that are
Compliance,
not,
ESG.
they're
Yeah.
not e-discovery. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Awesome.
This one's probably the most meaningful. In June, we saw more law firms downshift to from a 3-day requirement for new hires to a 1-day a week in-office requirement. And we saw more people do that this month than any other month in the entire last, really, like 18, 24 months. It's pretty significant. It signals the law firms know they need to be more flexible in order to attract talent. It also demonstrates, I think, to the candidates that the law firms recognize they can be effective coming in 1 day a week. And so they're willing to meet that compromise. And so I can tell you, I mean, the amount of resumes our customers are getting, making that adjustment is an increase of about 250%. I mean, it's a whole new search the minute they make that shift. That's how impactful this variable is to the amount of interest from
And
candidates in the job market.
you've been saying that all along, that that's
I've been
going to
saying
be
it for a year. Yeah.
we have some questions. So, and I know you're probably going to hit on some of these as we go through, but
Yeah.
are the jobs that are fully virtual and the ones that are hybrid, 2 to 3 days in office, now static going forward, so that what we have now will not be changing for the foreseeable future? Or are there still places potentially wanting people back in the office by 2025 or going forward? And this
The
kind
answer
of
is
hits on that.
both. Yeah, the answer is both. It just depends on the employer. You know, and really, you know, the guidance we often give candidates who are really worried about that potential change after accepting a new position is to ask questions like, what is the um, enforcement of the in-office requirement, and what are the consequences if it's not followed? Because when you have to answer that question, as opposed to what's the policy, you're probably going to get a little more authentic sense from the interviewer as to what you can expect in terms of the experience of actually having to come in and who's doing it and who's not. And, you know, just asking what the policy is isn't enough. You have to ask what the enforcement is and the consequences of non-compliance.
I love that you said that's the difference, that tweak in how you ask the question.
You get a more authentic answer. It's easy to tell you what we say everyone does. It's much more difficult to tell you what we do when they don't listen.
Right.
Right.
Um,
I
and
think
so
if you're a parent, right, we all tell our kids to do the same things. What happens when they don't listen? You're going to get a different answer from different parents, and that tells you what kind of a parent they are, right?
that's very, very true. Another question for that. Does that mean all their staff at the firms went from 3 to 1 or just the lucky new ones?
It depends. I think with a lot of our customers, they were trying to enforce a firm-wide policy and are now making an exception for this group because this group is having trouble filling this job. And chances are a lot of the existing employees were already getting this permission and they wanted to get new people indoctrinated to their program or their department by bringing them into an office because they felt like that would indoctrinate them faster and train them faster. And there were probably employees willing to do that as part of that onboarding process. That, and it's a complicated answer, but that's more what we're seeing, right? Is that these permissions were already given to existing employees, but they weren't useful in attracting new ones.
Perfect.
So as at the end of Q2, 3 out of every 4 e-discovery job seekers would rather take a fully remote contract job than a direct hire position with a 3-day or more in-office requirements. We've been asking people this as we've been talking to our candidates and the people we represent, and it is more likely that someone would leave a full-time job and take a contract one than it is that they'll go into an office 3 days a week, just to show you the mindset of the job seeker.
That's a pretty powerful stat right there.
It
And
is.
are we seeing that it doesn't matter how long seniority, experience level, how long they've
I
been?
mean, at the managerial leadership level, that probably is where you hit that ceiling, is right below that.
Yeah,
But everything below that in the ecosystem, I would say that this is true. Even entry level candidates seem very reticent to come into an office 3 days a week.
got it.
At the end of Q2, burnout is now the #1 motivator for ESI job seekers over the last 12 months. It started in Q4, kind of worked its way up in Q4 to the #1 for that quarter, but not for the year. Everybody's burnt out. Everybody's understaffed. We're feeling it. People are coming to us complaining. That's part of the reason why people are willing to take contract jobs that are remote, because they're burnt out and they feel like, at least if I'm working remote in a new job and I'm contract, I've got the kind of control over my own destiny and the flexibility that I might need. And if I'm not working, I don't get paid, and I'm fine with that. That is really, really impacting our industry. And part of this is kind of, and Mike and I were talking a little bit about this, Maribel, in prep for this call. Part of this is a little bit, I think, in that we lost a generation after COVID conversation from last month. I've been really reflecting on that, and until we had actually like said it on the webinar last month, it hadn't really like codified in my mind. But
Right.
we really did. I mean, no one was hiring, at least not from us, no one was hiring people with 0 to 3 years experience between 2020 Q2 and really 2023. it's almost 3 years of like not a lot of new people getting into the business. And the problem is in 2023 to present, everyone wanted those people who were now going to have 3 or 4 or 5 years experience and were ready to make moves. And it has just been really, really difficult to supply that talent to everyone who wants it at that price point, because you also have to consider if everybody wants somebody at 80,000, that person's going to get 5 offers and go from 80 to 120 in 12 months. And I'm watching it happen, not just in e-discovery at that junior level, but also in like legal ops. I know we're not here to talk about that entirely, but we do that work too. I know you guys are involved in that. And legal ops people are going from 80 to $150,000 in 18, 24 months because they've got a skill set that like no one else has. They can wield HiQ, or they can wield Tableau or Power BI or Kira, or they're gotten real deep on some of the new AI tech, right? They're Copilot. They were the first people to get their hands on Copilot. That unique skill set is getting such a premium in the marketplace right now until there are more people that have those skill sets. And it's sort of the same story with e-discovery people who have very little experience, right? They're jumping in salaries quickly, and that won't last for much longer. We're coming to the end of that in terms of supply.
And I mean, I think that's a little bit like what we saw years ago with data scientists coming in and data analytics, right? If you had those skill sets and you could understand it and you were coming into those roles instead of being taught them, I mean, there was a high price for them.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing to consider. With e-discovery, people are adopting the need for talent with all of these skill sets. It still kind of has yet to be as broadly determined that people are going to start adopting talent with all these other skill sets and technologies in the same volume that they have adopted talent and the need for e-discovery professionals. The volume of available positions in e-discovery far outweighs the volume of available positions in legal ops right now.
Interesting. And I love that you touched on burnout, because even a few months ago, even the judges are feeling burnout at this moment. And I've talked to quite a few. They're talking about it. I just threw a link in for the Mind Budget connection, which they've been talking about e-discovery burnout since 2020 or 2021. I think you and I were at one of the conferences where they did some presentations about it.
It's a complicated equation. It's a complicated equation because it's not just there's more work and not enough people. That would be simple because then they just hire more people. The complication with the equation is the price point at which they want to hire more people doesn't come or doesn't seem to be coming with the same set of acceptable expectations of what the job requires from the people they hired at that rate 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, right? Who have now grown up and understand that they're taking customer calls at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, or they're having to go, bounce onto emails at 10 o'clock at night because they got a client request. And the kind of upper middle managerial market of e-discovery sort of accepts that reality.
Right.
The newcomers don't.
Yeah.
They don't accept it. That reality is not acceptable to them. And they don't want that lifestyle. And a lot of them are not going to live that. I mean, I'm generalizing to make a point, but a lot of them are not going to live that lifestyle. And so how do you rectify that? Well, the way a lot of people that are experienced in the space are rectifying it is they're just picking up the slack. And that is not sustainable. That is not sustainable. They will burn themselves out. And they're coming to us, willing to sacrifice compensation in order to get higher quality of life. I mean, I have people that are leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table in total compensation because they don't care about the paid overtime anymore. It's too much. They know it's unhealthy. Yeah.
All right.
Finally, our ESI attorney staffing hit an all-time high. It's not just a technologist's marketplace anymore. There is a big demand out there for e-discovery attorneys. And when you say, Jared, what do you mean e-discovery attorneys? Here's what I mean. TAR protocol negotiation, advising and guiding on a meet and confer that is a bet the stakes litigation, bet the farm litigation, advising on how to do global data maps on, petabytes of undiscovered data in preparation for potential litigation. It is deep understanding of case law and how to argue case law in order to avoid certain consequences judicially.
Right.
It's not running big scale doc review. That's not what I'm talking about.
So all
It's
the things ACEDS has been telling attorneys they should be doing for the last 14 years and saying, hey, attorneys, you need to get e-discovery certified and understand e-discovery best practices.
yeah, this is
And
what they want, especially if you want to go work in a corporation.
got it. Awesome. Well, we knew it was coming, right? And we knew that was going to we knew that that was going to be a huge thing that attorneys were going to need to start to.
Well, I think, Maribel, we all thought, oh my gosh, there's just so much data, we can't handle it. But like, actually, we did. We did handle it.
Yeah.
I think we're now getting that place where like, okay, there's too much data. Like, what?
And it's growing.
It's not simple stuff in a, PST file. It is metadata. Like, I've heard discovery requests from some of my customers on metadata that it literally makes my jaw drop. Things like, how long did a person hover over another person's profile without clicking on it on a social media platform? And can some proprietary technology that you've built unpack that for us? And if so, we're going to now try to request that on all of this litigation and all these users. I mean, oh my gosh, like, hovering data. I've never heard that before. That was a new one for me. And if I'm hearing that, I can't imagine what my customers are hearing, all day, every day, in terms of the kinds of things people are thinking that they want to collect in order to prove their argument. And what is discoverable? If it's discoverable, why shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
And if you're the attorney that can go in there and argue the why shouldn't it be, there's a lot of corporations out there based on case law. There's a lot of corporations out there that want you and want that intelligence right now,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, I can understand the hovering because there are tools out there on the marketing side where we see what is the heat map, where are people landing on things like that. So there has to be, if that we can do that on the marketing side and understand where people are on a landing page on a website, then definitely you can do that right on the e-discovery side. So I could just imagine the other tools that the other types of data, right, as we continue on, that's just gonna become a thing for us.
So we've got only about 7 minutes. I want to quickly kind of show everybody
Yes.
the data points that have changed.
Up.
This one was the most dramatic, so we listed it first. You can see here that you've only got a 1 in 2 chance of the person accepting your offer if it's the first offer. We have a lot of candidates that are like, I appreciate the offer. I've got a few more coming. I'm going to need a couple more weeks before I make a decision, and they're very hard to influence otherwise. They want to see how many offers they get and which ones are at what level. And respectfully, they don't want to accept something if they know they've got something else coming. This was not the case in Q1 through 3 of last year, where you had an 80% chance, 4 in 5 chance that somebody was going to say yes if you got there first. So it's no longer just about being fastest first and first wins most of the time. You've got to put your best foot forward, not just your fastest foot forward if you're an employer. And if you do both, you are going to grab great talent. It doesn't mean they're going to say yes right away, though.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're going to say yes right away, according to our metrics. So
Starting
you
to
can
look
see,
like your 2022.
right? I mean, you can look in 2022, we're starting to move back to what things looked like at the peak of the Great Recession. We're not that far away in e-discovery. Now, in privacy and security, it's very different because most of the people hiring are in corporate, and those jobs are a little harder to get, and they're a lot more coveted, and they're also a lot more contract than what we're seeing in ESI. But yeah, the competition for the uniqueness of the ESI professional and the lack of volume available for the demand is starting to hit, from an offer acceptance perspective, a trend that looks a lot more like 2022. Yeah,
Candidates market.
that's a candidate's market.
Yeah.
Here you see contract versus direct hire. Direct hire is still higher. We've gone from about 50-50 to a little bit more direct hiring. That shows you that demand and buy-in is increasing. If you look at this in the privacy market, it's almost a 180. It's like 72% contract work. So they don't have the buy-in that ediscovery people do to acquire talent in a direct hire capacity. So there's a good amount of opportunity in both verticals right now in ediscovery. And we expect this is going to sort of stay the same between now and the end of the year. As more full-time jobs fill and less talent becomes available, if project work becomes extreme, you will see contract work start to skyrocket because people will just say, look, we got this huge project. Can I get 5-6 people here to handle this for the next few years or the next 6 to 12 months on a 2R? And, then we won't need them anymore. You're going to see that if things get really busy too fast and they don't think they'll be able to onboard full-time people fast enough to handle the work, or they can't predict the work that will come after to continue to feed that mouth past that project. So that might change that prediction, but otherwise, I think this will be pretty steady.
Quick question that we
Yeah.
have, and we'll answer that live. Is there a similar occasional update for trends related to the privacy and security job marketplace? And there is.
Yes, we put out a 2024 data privacy jobs report. You can download that too on our website, same location. Someone on my team will put that in the channel right now. And we do an Eye on Privacy webinar every month that does this exact same sort of agenda of educating and empowering the community of privacy job seekers and employers on how to improve based on what we see happening in the marketplace. So yeah, join us for both. It'd be great to register for both. We do both of them each month. We're also doing a ton of resume clinics, which we'll plug at the end of this too, to help ediscovery job seekers make better resumes.
Awesome.
Motivation. We talked a little bit about this. Burnout is number one. And, we're being a little hyperbolic today and a little cheeky. What does burnout mean for some? Burnout for some means I just am overworked. Burnout for some others means we can't take any more business and I got to go somewhere that can take more business. We've got a lot of sales reps that are coming to us right now that are complaining their employers are saying no to projects because they can't handle it in terms of the work, the volume. And that's the fastest way to send your salespeople looking for other employers. The third, like toxic cultural leadership, we hear it a lot. People are really frustrated with, a lack of vision, B, just a lack of care, and I think like empathy from employers, and a sense of just like kind of do your job culture is driving people to the marketplace, or a lack of leadership is driving people to the marketplace, just an absence of. A lot of people had a manager and now don't. Money, and of course, unemployment. Unemployment is going up. I think ediscovery is becoming now a mature enough industry that it does mirror what's happening from a macro perspective, economically speaking. We're seeing more people unemployed. We've got more job seekers coming to us who are out of work. But not more than are burnt out by a long shot.
I see.
Yeah. Here's the money slide. We do have some changes here that I think are important to highlight. I think click one more. Yeah. So we've actually seen the averages go up quite a bit at law firms, incrementally, but kind of across the board in the mid-market section. So specialists, coordinators, PMs, consultants, they've all sort of gone up, incrementally like 5-10% from where we were about a month ago in terms of the positions where we've placed people that are the same as a month ago today. So firms are bringing up their salaries to lock down talent a little bit. On the vendor side, though, it's a little different. We're seeing actually the numbers for project managers go down. We are seeing a few people pay a little bit more for review managers. Part of that is because they've got less reviewers and they are using tech smarter. They want more sophisticated leadership over their review management, and they're willing to pay a little bit more money for it. There are also a lot of more people outsourcing offshore, which is saving the business money when done effectively and allowing them to put a little bit more cash into the investment of onshore leadership talent to manage offshore volume. But not so much in the PM ranks, man. The vendors are pushing hard for less expensive talent in the middle of the marketplace, and it is making it challenging for job seekers to find work in the middle and for employers to fill a lot of these positions.
I have a question for next time. We'll pin it because I want to make sure you get through, but I want to talk about offshore and how we're seeing that what we're seeing there. So something for us to talk about.
Yeah. When it comes to engineering on the software side, and when it comes to review on the services side, I think a lot more people are sending things offshore than many of us probably would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all the data for today. We're doing this clinic next Tuesday for sales professionals. It is geared specifically towards e-discovery job seekers that are sales professionals. It's really amazing stuff Sarah's put together with the help of Monique on our team, and of course, Mary Taylor and Sarah Brown in our marketing department. We can't wait to share it with everybody. Join us then. You can register there by clicking that QR code. I think that's everything we've got for everybody today, Maribel.
Yeah, and MT has dropped the link for that also, so you can directly register if you can. The other thing I would say, just going back to a lot of what Jared said, ACEDS summer sale is next week. It is from the 15th to the 19th. You can use summer 25 to get 25% off. Get certified, get your e-discovery foundational training, take a micro course, get up to date, get up to speed. Then reach out to Jared and the team and get placed, because this is what we're doing. We're making sure that we just build, continue building and build the future e-discovery professionals. Thank you all for joining Jared and myself. We'll be back next month. We'll be back next month, right, Jared?
We're back every month. It'll never stop.
Back every month. So we're back next month. Don't miss out, and also share and let other people know that we're here and they should join us as well. Thank you.